Hello and welcome to episode 4 of my D&D class thing, as one I do. Sorry for the bit of length of time for me getting around to this one. So, as if you've been following long enough, you would know this is the Druid episode, the naturey, hippie, Stone Age, I don't know what armor is counterpart of the Cleric, as one does. Now, quick disclaimer, I guess you could call it. I don't particularly care for this class much. I have nothing against it. It's a good class. I mean, it's an okay class. I don't know. The point is, I have nothing against it. Nor is it terribly hippie. It really isn't. I mean, it's partially due to the concept of a hippie really didn't exist in the medieval Renaissance age, really. That was a later invention / concept, so I can't even really compare them. But since there's a series of comparing them to where you can get inspiration from history and culture, of where to get ideas for your classes and characters, so, you know, I have to go where it takes me, and where it takes me is a lot of Stone Age, North America, and downtown California. Sorry. But, of course, as I'm legally obligated to, we must start back in the Stone Age, as all good things do. This is actually a thing I've noticed along my ways. We start in the Stone Age, and you get a lot of interesting ideas, but that's not important. We're here in the Stone Age now. Now, in the Stone Age, you kind of get the idea. The thing is, the Druid character as we know it doesn't really exist yet beyond... Well, that's not true. You have the exception of the Shaman, who, like, of course, no. But the thing about it is that a lot of what you think about, like, the whole Druid class, works very well in a Stone Age time. Just instead of being those weird folk in the woods that need to get a job and a life and a, decency. They are, the leaders of the tribe, at least spiritually. Now, granted, their levels of actual magic power are, questionable, to say the least. But that's not really important. But you do have to think about what a society of this type would be. Now, granted, this is where we get less historical and more magical here. But, what a society led by Druids would look like. It would not have since the Druids generally protect nature and such, and we're getting back into hippie territory, but have the whole, like, protect nature, don't do things to harm nature. You have to wonder what a society of Stone Age basis would look like under that kind of thing, since they wouldn't be interested in progressing or maintaining things. They would be more focused on a balance. After all, at least spiritually, they're your leaders. But that's just how it goes. Although, I mean, like, it would be a very, very, very interesting kind of idea to see a society where they were moving past the Stone Age into a more technological time, and the shamans were now being slowly phased out. I'm not sure what you do with that, but it would be a really cool idea to see. Although you also have to wonder what would lead to the changing of a society going from Druids leading it to clerics. And that's another thing, is that this is something I mentioned back in the cleric video, is how back then the difference between what you consider a cleric and a druid would about be the same thing, really. There wouldn't be as much of a difference as one may immediately think. But that's all here and there. But the difference of where we start seeing them show up is how, back during the Stone Age, or at least a magical Stone Age, the shamans, or the magic users, or whatever you want to call them, would have been the leaders. They would not have been the outcasts. But as technology and time progresses, they slowly get phased out. That is how this generally goes, unless your society goes quite a bit differently, then it changes how that goes, obviously. Then, when you get to the medieval age, there isn't really much for the druid to do, honestly. Like, the problem is, most of what you consider a druid, wild shape and commune with nature, is really more of the whole, like, witchcraft and such territory, and that's the warlock stuff, and messing with the warlock is not a good idea. But, I guess there's some overlap there, but that will be addressed more in the warlock video, as that's really where this stuff really comes into play. However, there is an element to them. Although, admittedly, when you try to consider what you can work them in, you start getting into ranger territory, and it's weird because they don't know where to sit. But in the druid, you have the whole, like, they're still kind of like the ones who don't want as many technological progress and innovation and such, but yet there isn't really as much. There's plenty of wild land. It isn't like humanity is supremacist over nature, at least not yet. So, things are more like forewarnings than anything, if you consider them right, which is a massive question mark, of course, but this is just all the sake of an argument for a video. But, as one may immediately think, Also, really quick note, you know how hard it is to find good medieval artwork for these videos? I tell you, it's unrealistically hard. Like, trying to find good medieval paintings of the time, made by the actual people of the time, is so difficult. I don't know why. I really don't. But that's neither here nor there. Now, as the Renaissance go on, we really don't see much of them. They just kind of exist in that same awkward middle period, beyond maybe occasionally getting mixed up with the Warlock and Witch Trials, because, you know, there's not much of a difference. And I also feel it's kind of important that we now take a quick detour to North America. And as we all know, before the Europeans showed up, it was filled with Native Americans of all shapes and sizes, as one does, because there was a lot of different tribes, and I seriously tell you, you could devote a video for one tribe, or group, or whatever you want to call it, for the people who lived in North and South America before European contact, and you could dedicate one video to them, and probably have hundreds of videos, and years worth of content. I tell you, there's that much, and I don't know half of it, or most of it. Really, does anyone? A lot of them didn't bother to write down the stuff, but that's neither here nor there. Now, due to the technological, I don't want to say stagnation, just slow progress, I guess. They didn't really advance. They advanced past the Stone Age. It's not true. It's just they never really got to the Renaissance until after they met the Europeans. So a lot of what applies to the Stone Age would apply here, except for obviously a more Native American flair, totem spirits and that kind of thing. Like totems. Sorry, I said that wrong. Totem spirits, you know, communing with animalism and such like that would be more common. I'm not sure. It kind of depends on how much you incorporate that into a normal druid, but that would definitely be something here. Also, you can, of course, there's also the, not Wendigo, skinwalkers, I believe they're called in Native American folklore, who are kind of like druids, they're evil, so, you know, although maybe you could change that around maybe to make them your character, unless you want to play more neutral evil character, that still works. Highly recommend if you want to take a druid with a Native American feel to go and make them based on the skinwalkers. Look them up, it's rather interesting. And no, Wendigos wouldn't really count as a good example here. Moving past staying in North America, but moving to the closer to the modern day, we get the hippie. And I just have to establish, I don't like hippies. I really, really, really don't. Like, this is why I'm working on a hip door. But sadly, it doesn't work, so it doesn't, like, help me track hippies. Or, when I track hippies so I can blow them up later. Also, I'm pretty sure blowing up people is illegal. I think. Is it illegal? Do I have to check the law on that? Yeah, it's obviously illegal. Don't go around blowing up people, kids. That's my message for the day. Don't blow up people. But just as that, I really don't like the culture or any much thing about them. So I'm going to try not to go on a berserker rampage all over them, because after this point they lose much of their redeeming qualities for me. However, all druids definitely have an element of hippie to them, and if you're even taking inspiration anywhere close to the 1960s, or 70s, or whatever you want to call it, then these guys are going to come up. So, what to say about them? I really don't know. I mean, like, it's not like I don't have lack of words to say, it's just I'm not entirely sure what you'd make a hippie druid, or basing your druid on a hippie for the modern day. I mean, like, the problem is, like, their whole thing is so based in modern society. Like, it's kind of like how the barbarians don't work in a more modern setting, how I mentioned in the first video of the series, the barbarian. However, unlike the barbarian, they clinged on in a way, but yet they still don't do anything. Like now we have some more, like, radical ones who try to do some more, take action in their eyes, but there's nothing really to say about them. They really don't have a D&D, much of a class equivalent, but, so I can't really say much of anything. However, the whole idea of nature versus technology definitely comes into play here, as they will especially taking off this one, would definitely have some issue with at least some versions of technology in progress. It would just depend to the extent of potentially going all the way back to no technology, or at least Stone Age tech, but that's just totally dependent on your character and how they view things, or the group, or whatever. So, you know, take that as one wishes. And, of course, we have the all-important part of course, the problem is, like, really, the problem with basing a druid kid off of a hippie is that there really is not much in the way of a countermeasure in the medieval world, but that's just how it goes. As far as the future goes, same deal, really. I mean, like, I guess now you have robot hippies, which is a whole MacGuffin in and of itself. But, you know, most of the things that would apply, I guess you could give them, like, commune with nature powers or something, but that's really more magical, and that applies anywhere. But yeah, you know, you can do future things. The problem is I can't really think of a good example of what a thing, for example, for a future's time. But hey, you know, you can do it all. But yeah, that's my video on the Druid. I'm not particularly enthused about this video because I don't particularly care much for the class, and I don't have too much to say on it. But, I made a video for it, and, you know, hopefully hopefully the people who came here came back with some great ideas for their characters. Next up is I actually don't know which is next off the top of my head. I'm gonna have to look in the book for that later. But, hope you enjoyed. See you next time.